Hello everyone, welcome to Mathematical Method Unit 1. This video we will focus on 4C. The learning intention is to sketch the graph of y equal to a times square root x minus h plus k. Okay, the successful criteria is I know the basic graph, the basic shape of y equal to square root x and y equal to negative square root x. Okay, and the second successful criteria is I know how to draw the graph of y equal to a times square root x minus h plus k. Okay, so first of all, come back to our first successful criteria, the basic shape of y equal to square root x and y equal to negative square root x. Okay, so now here is my equation, y equal to square root x, and we know inside of the square root all the number have to be positive. Okay, so that's why x has to be larger and equal to 0. Okay, so now let's so here I already draw constructed the table over here, so x can be equal to 0, 1, 4, 9, 16. Okay, so now to calculate y, so when x is equal to 0, square root 0 is 0, square root 1 is 1, square root 4 is 2, square root 9 is 3, square root 16 is 4. Okay, and then we can plot these different coordinate pairs on my graph, on my Cartesian plan. So 0, 0 is over here. Now 1, 1, so 1, 1. And when x is equal to 4, y is equal to 2. When x is equal to 9, y is equal to 3. When x is equal to 16, y is equal to 4. Okay, and then, so you see here 0, 0, that's my starting point, and then it go up and right. Okay, so it's a very smooth curved line going up and right. Okay, so this is the graph of y equal to square root x. Okay, be aware x should be larger than or equal to 0. And then coming back to our second table, y is equal to negative square root x. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing to calculate the corresponding y value for each of the x value. So when x is equal to 0, negative square root 0 is, let me use a different color. So when x is equal to 0, negative 0, square root 0 is 0, negative square root 1 is negative 1, negative square root 4 is negative 2, and negative square root 9 is negative 3, negative 16, negative square root 16 is equal to negative 4. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing to plot them on my Cartesian plan. So 0, 0 is on the origin, 1, negative 1, so 1, negative 1, and 4, negative 2, 4, negative 2, and 9, negative 3, 9, negative 3, and 16, negative 4. Okay, and then so starting point is still my origin, 0, 0, and then it go down to the right. Okay. Okay, so that's my graph for y equal to negative square root x. Okay, still x should be larger and equal to 0. And then that's why you see my graph is on the right hand side of the Cartesian plan, because x cannot be equal to 0. Okay, so that's why both of these two graphs, they are on the right hand side. Okay, so now so by far you should be very familiar with the graph y equal to square root x and y equal to negative square root x. So in a summary, for example, so now I know roughly graph for y equal to square root x. I know it's starting from origin and it goes up and right. Okay, so that's my graph roughly. Roughly graph for y equal to square root x, and also I know y equal to negative square root. I know it kind of reflected. Okay, so initially the graph is over here, but now for negative it reflected in the x-axis. Okay, so this is my starting from origin, starting point, and this is the graph for y equal to negative square root x. Okay, so in your mind you should be very familiar with the general graph, like roughly, what does it look like for y equal to square root x and y equal to negative square root x, okay? So now that's my first successful criteria. I know the basic shape of y equal to square root x and y equal to negative square root x. Okay, so now we're going to come to the second one. How to draw the graph of y equal to a times square root x minus h and k. Okay, so this will be all similar with graph of y equal to square root x or y equal to negative square root x. Okay, so there's a few steps that I can tell you. So first of all, again, so we know y equal to, so a general form, it will be y equal to a times square root x minus h plus k. Okay, so now we know they're gonna coming from their graph. Their graph is coming from the graph of y equal to square root x, which is starting point from origin upright, and I know also y equal to negative square root x. Okay, so that general graph gonna be starting from origin down and right. Okay, so that's my general shape. So all of this, the graph of this y equal to a times square root x minus h plus k, they are coming from originally coming from the graph of y equal to square root x and y equal to negative square root x. Okay, so there are a few steps that we can follow. Okay, so step one. Okay, so we need to identify. Identify starting point. Okay, so identify starting point, which is my h and k. Okay, so now come to our graph. Let me finish this. Okay, so step one, identify starting point. Step two, identifying the shape. Identify the shape through the value of a. Okay, so I can leave a little bit space because I need to add a little bit more later on. Step 3, and label x-intercept and y-intercept. Okay, so now coming back to our work example. So on your 4C work example, for sketch, so sketch y equal to 3 times square root x plus 1 minus 6. Okay, so on my right hand side, the note, you see step 1. Step 1, identify the starting point h and k. Okay, so now initially I know the general form is y equal to a times x minus h plus k. Okay, so again, it's similar like your quadratics and truncus. Okay, or even the hyperbola. Okay, so we need to, so this is my form, and then when I identify h and k, I need to make sure they look exactly like my general form over here. So what does it mean? Okay, so here, you see here, it's x minus h, whereas in my example, it's x plus. Okay, so they are not the same, so I have to make them the same. So I need to do a little bit of rearrangement, like what we did before. So I can write it in y equal to 3 times square root x minus 1. Okay, so you see that x minus 1 is still equal to x plus 1, so it still looks same with the rules that we were given by the equation, by the question. Okay, so now, and then I continue. it's plus -6, okay? It's plus -6. And then, so now compare this form and our general form. So now I know my h is my -1, the k is -6, okay? So now, right, so I can write this down. So h and k, they are equal to -1 and -6 respectively. Okay, so now h is equal to -1, k is equal to -6. Okay, so now I can start to draw the graph. So I can draw a Cartesian plan over here. It's my Cartesian plan, and can draw over here. Okay, so now this is my x and y. Make sure you label the x and y. And then so h and k, so that's my starting point. So -1 is my x value, so it's over here. -6 is, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this is my -6. -1, -6. Okay, so that is my -1, -6. So I know this is my starting point. Okay, so now coming to the step 2. On my right hand side of the note, step 2. Step 2, identify the shape through the value of a. Okay, so now when a is larger than 0, and then so we know our graph gonna be similar with y equal to square root x. Okay, so the graph gonna be up and right, up and right. Okay, so it's similar from y equal to square root x. Okay, and then when x is smaller than 0, okay, so that means my graph is reflecting in the x-axis. So now it's gonna go down and right. Okay, so similar with your graph y equal to negative square root x. Okay, so now coming back to our example 4. Now a is equal to, so here I know, so here is my a. So a is the one that outside of the square root, so a is equal to straight. Okay, a equal to straight. So now I can say a equal to straight, which is larger than 0. So therefore my graph gonna be do upright. Okay, so it should be upright. So it should be up and going right. So what does it mean? So I can draw roughly the graph gonna be up and right. Okay, so I know the shape should be roughly like this. Okay, but then as you can see here, we have the graph, the curved graph that we draw. It actually intersects with x and y axis. Okay, so that means coming from our step 3, we need to label the x and y intercept. Okay, so it's similar with what we did before to identify to find x-intercept, let y equal to 0. Okay, so let y equal to 0. So 0 is equal to 3 times x plus 1, square root x plus 1 minus 6. Okay, so when now here is minus 6, so I can plus 6 plus 6, so that give me square root 3 times square root x plus 1 equal to 6. Okay, so now here is 3, so I can divide by 3 on both sides, so that give me So that gives me 2 equal to square root x plus 1. And then here is the square root. To undo the square root, we square them. Okay, so now I can square them. And then square cancel out the square root. So that gives you 4 equal to x plus 1. So x is equal to 3. Okay, so now my x-intercept will be 3, 0. Okay, so now I can see. So now I know, so 1, 2, 3, that's my x-intercept, 3, 0. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. To find y-intercept, let x equal to 0. Okay, so y equal to 3 square root, now x plus 1, x is equal to 0, so 0 plus 1 minus 6. Okay, so I'll have y equal to 3 square root 0 plus 1, so that's 1. minus 6, so that will be equal to negative 3. Okay, so now my y-intercept gonna be 0, negative 3. Okay, so now we can label them. So 0, negative 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's my y-intercepts, 0, negative 3. Okay, so now we have find the x and y-intercepts, so we can just draw a smooth curve to link them together, so that this one will be my graph of y equal to 3 times square root x plus 1 minus 6. Okay, now let's do example 5. Example 5, so we're going to follow the same procedure. So let me write the general form, y equal to a times x minus h plus k. Okay, so now check the value. Here it is x minus h, and here is x minus 1. So I can say my h is equal to 1, my k is equal to 3. So h is equal to 1, k is equal to 3. So now hk is equal to my origin starting point is 1 and 3. Okay, so now I can start to draw my Cartesian plan. You can see that's my x, and that's my y. Okay, so my starting point is 1, 3. So I can say 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so my starting point is 1 and 3. 1 and 3. So 1 and 3. So that's my starting point. Okay, so now we finished step 1. So look, if you look, have a look about the notes on the right hand side. Step 2, identify the shape. Okay, through the value of a. So now we know value of a is the one outside the square root, so a is equal to, so a is equal to square negative 2, which is less than 0. Okay, so less than 0, and then that means the graph's shape will be similar to the graph of y equal to negative square root x. Okay, so that means the graph gonna be down and right. Okay, from the starting point. So you have a starting point over here, which is 1 and 3, and then so we know roughly the graph is going to be like that, down and to the right. Okay, so now we finished step 2. We identified the roughly what the shape look like, and then step 3, we know here we have a starting point, so we only need to find the x-intercept, okay, because this graph doesn't intersect with y-axis. Okay, so we only need to find the x-intercept. So to find x-intercept, let y equal to 0. Okay, so y equal to 0 equal to negative 2 square root x minus 1 plus 3. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing, minus 3 on both sides. So minus 3 on both sides, so that gives me negative 3 equal to square root 2, negative 2 square root x minus 1, okay? And then we can move that negative 2, so to do that, I need to divide by negative 2 on both sides. So I can divide by negative 2, divided by negative 2, so that will give me, on the left hand side of the equal sign, I have 3 over 2 equal to, so negative 2 cancel out, so that will give me square root x minus 1. Okay, so now to cancel out my square root, I need to square root to square them. Okay, so square cancel out my square root, so on the left hand side going to be equal to 9 over 4 and equal to, so square cancel out square root, so give me x minus 1. So if you simplify, x will be equal to 13 over 4, which is roughly equal to 3.2, so 13 divided by 4, 3.25. Okay, so 3.25. Okay, so now over here, coming back to our Cartesian plan, so I know my x-intercept gonna be 3.25, 0 or 13 over 4, 0, they're the same. Okay, so now I know 13 over 4 is 3.25. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is roughly over here in the middle to the left. Okay, so that's roughly is my x-intercept. Label them 13 over 4, 0, and then connect them together. So that's going to be my graph of y equal to negative 2 square root x minus 1 plus 3.